Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Deepa Robbins from Designs by Dee, and I'm so excited to be part of the Scrap and Stamp Wild and Whimsy Inspiration Hop today. So this is a hop featuring Tracey Hey stamp sets, and today I'm going to be using a stamp set called Little Bit Crazy, and I thought this one was just so cute and so appropriate for Valentine's Day, which is just around the corner. So I'm going to be creating this cute little wobbler card that little unicorn and alpaca are on a wobbler, a DIY wobbler, and I'll show you how to make that. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the stamp set. As I mentioned, it is such a cute little stamp set. There's actually a little elephant in there too I could have used, but I just thought that little unicorn looked nice with the alpaca and its arms kind of sticking out so I could kind of mask it and put those two little. Now you can use any type of alcohol ink coloring safe ink that you want to use here. I'm also going to be using this Inkadinkado stamping mask paper. You can use any masking paper. You can even use fully adhesive post-it notes. And all I did was I stamped out the same alpaca on this masking paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fussy cut it out and use it to mask my image so that I can stamp that unicorn right beside that alpaca. So as you can imagine, this stamp set is actually really nice to use because it has these full outline images and they're perfect for Copic coloring. And in this case, I'm going to be using some Spectrum Noir markers. They're the tri-blends. You could even do some watercoloring with it, do some pencil crayons, anything. It's completely up to you. This stamp set is just made for coloring, much like the Lawn Fawn stamp sets out there. So now I'm stamping out that little unicorn, and you can see once I take the mask off that you get a nicely unique image that I made of these two little characters. They look so cute with their heads kind of tilting in the same direction. And I am just kind of in love with this little set. So I always do this. I'm always worried about my image smudging, so I do kind of heat set it with a heat tool. So now I've got my tri-blends out. This would be, I would say, like the first set. So they actually have a few sets. There's this set, there's a second set, and then there is a third set of darker colors. So these are really cool because they have 3 colors on each marker. So there's 24 markers, you're really getting way more than that. And it's really nice because you don't actually have to think about picking a dark mid-end light tone. You just kind of pick up the color that you want and you can use all the different tones in there. You can even use just a couple tones if you wanted, and that's what I've done for some of these images here. So all I'm doing is some simple coloring with this. I'm just kind of laying down my light color, a bit of my darks, and then blending it all out with the lighter color. And really, it's just nothing too fancy, just enough to add color and some splash of, rainbow to these images. And I really like the fact that these markers, they have like a large variety of colors in the pack, and on top of that, like I said, it's 3 in 1. So I mean, I love the fact that I don't have to do too much thinking about it. They also come in 2 different tips. So I have the brush tip. There's also like a nib tip if you wanted that, so always pay attention to that as well. I like the brush tip because if I'm doing coloring of, say, flowers and things, which I do a lot as well, I can do more of that flicking that you kind of do. And if you do more coloring of cartoony pictures like this, I would recommend that nib tip. So I have all the colors listed that I used, if you wanted to take a look at that. And once I'm done, what I do is I go ahead and add my highlights with a Sakura Jelly Roll pen. I'm not always good at keeping my highlights and my coloring. I tend to add too much color, so I find this is a neat little trick. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to making our little wobbler. All you need to do is cut out 4 1-inch circles with a punch. It could be any size as long as your colored image is going to cover it up. As you can see, this works perfectly for mine. And then next you're going to grab some jewelry wire, any type of wire maybe for flower making that you may have laying around. And you're going to take something round like a pen or a pencil. I have a Sharpie here, and I'm just going to wrap this around about 6 to 8 times to create a nice little spring. Once that's done, you can kind of push the pieces of the spring, like the lines, in together to kind of make it a little tighter. That makes it more springier. Pull it out and make it a bit higher, make the width wider, and that makes it less springier. It's completely up to you. So I like this because you can kind of tailor it to what you want. Next, what I'm going to do is add some double-sided adhesive to that wire piece and stick it to that circle backing. And then I'll do the same on the other side. Now, if you wanted to make this a bit cleaner, what you do is add those 2 extra circles that we cut through the wire so that it covers up that part of the spring that's attached to the first circle piece. And once you have that done, you see you have this really neat little DIY wobbler, and it's really inexpensive to make. Now, if you don't have these supplies lying around, you can also check the Scrap and Stamp store. They have like a 10-pack or 12-pack of these wobblers, and they're really reasonably priced. Now for my background, I'm using some Versamark watermark ink, and I'm actually just going to apply it to the top half of my card piece. Now, this panel is about 6 3/4 by 4 3/4 to make a 5" by 7" card. And I'm using some Emerald City Wow embossing powder to emboss the top half of it. Now, I really love these Wow embossing powders, which are also available in the Scrap and Stamp store, because once you get them on that paper, they have just such a but a wow effect, right? So what I do to clean up is I use my Swiffer cloth there, and I get rid of all the extra glitter, and I'll use the same method to apply some fairy dust Wow embossing powder to the bottom, and then I'll heat set it with my heat tool as well. Now, I do want to mention, when you are heating this up with your heat tool, I like to heat the back first, just to kind of melt the powder a little bit, because when you go to the front to heat it, some of the sparkles kind of fly off and creates a bit of a mess. As I said, that Swiffer cloth comes in handy. Now for my sentiment, I'm using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink just to stamp out that Crazy Love sentiment there, which is a really cute little sentiment that goes with this set. I'm going to heat emboss it with some Ranger Clear embossing powder because I just wanted to give it just a little bit of shine. You don't have to do this step. Then I cut it down to size, and I added a little flag cut on the end. What I do is I kind of just make a tiny cut in the center, and then I'll do my diagonal cuts to that center cut, and that gives me the little flag. Next, I'll adhere the glitter panel, to the card base, which is just a 5" by 7" white cardstock card base. For me, I like to use hammer mill paper because I've actually been using it for like years and years, ever since I started paper crafting, and it's just got a nice thick base to, it's sturdy enough for my card. And what I do is I kind of use my Tombow Mono adhesive, and then I will apply it, get it exactly where I want it, and then peel off the backing of that strong double-sided adhesive. Next, what I'm going to do is kind of position my wobbler where I think it's going to go, and I will attach the sentiment first with some foam tape. And I'm just covering the entire back with it because I want it to stick up nicely. Keep in mind, we're taping or adhering this to a glitter background, so you want to make sure you have some strong adhesive. Once that's done, I'll add some strong double-sided adhesive again to the wobbler, and then attach it pretty much in the bottom center of the card. And once that's on there nice and good, I'll just test out that wobble, and it seems to work pretty fine. Now I'm going to add some Pink Fresh Studio Glacier Jewels. Now these are really nice because they have like an AB shine, but they're white. I didn't want to go too overboard with the shine because of all the glitter, but I did have to put something on there in terms of jewels. Then I finished it off with a little bit of diamond stickles, so a bit more shine. So I decided to add it to just like the little creature's hair and like just tiny areas where I think it would just look nice and highlight the image. Now, I actually thought I was done, but then I looked at the card and thought it was missing something. So I went back and grabbed my Pink Fresh Studio Stitch Scallop rectangle dies, and I cut a few layers, a couple out of black cardstock, and then the top layer, actually there's 3 layers of black cardstock, and then the top layer I cut out of some Sizzix Silver Opulent cardstock, which is a nice brushed nickel kind of cardstock, and that created just a nice frame. And I liked how the extra little layers just created a little bit more dimension instead of being completely flat. Then what I did is I kind of lined it up with my card, and I decided to have it on a bit of an angle. I mean, the sentiment has crazy in it, so let's make the frame crazy too. Once I had decided where I was putting it, I kind of just cut the frame up so that it would fit just a little bit behind the sentiment. And I also had to remove a couple of those jewels and replace them. But it worked out fine, and in the end, you can see just a little bit of modification just made this card stand out just a little bit more. And as crafters, we're always doing this. We're always making things, modifying them, and reworking them into something that we really like. And so this is my card for this inspiration hop for Scrap and Stamp. I hope that you have been inspired to create something like this yourself, and go ahead and check out the Tracey Hey stamps in the Scrap and Stamp shop. And check out my blog. The link is in the description below. There's also a giveaway that they have going. Just go ahead and make a comment on my blog about which set is your favorite Tracey Hay set. I also have a link in my blog description that will take you right to the Scrap and Stamp shop that shows you all of the different Tracey Hay stamp sets. So go ahead and do that, and you could possibly win a stamp set for yourself. I hope you've been inspired, friends, and I hope that you visit me again, and have a great day. Bye.